Hi everyone. So in the last video we talked about simple CRUD operation, controller and services. Now in this video we are going to take a look on simple task array. Simple task array, and we will just try to simulate the scenario of a CRUD API. Let's say here we are not going to deal with the actual database, but we will just write a controller, and in the service we will just have a simple array. We will try to do insert, update, delete operations on top of that. So let's build this simple flow. Simple CRUD APIs, controller, service, and a model. Models will be in memory just like a task array or user array. Services will do the CRUD operations. Controller will expose the APIs. So let's continue our journey. So what we have done is we are just building a simple APIs. Here we have a task module, user module from the previous example. Now we are just going to install all the required things, right? We can just create a new branch. This is the repository which I'm going to share with you also to take a look onto these simple examples. So this is the repository and which I'm updating for 2026. I mean that in the NestJS nothing had changed much. It's just like I need to update the dependencies for the basic or beginner code examples. Those are going to be still the same. So I will just revamp this repository, update the dependencies and make it available for you all guys. So in this particular branch, we will just try to play with this example. Here you can just look at the two branches, init baseline, because I'm going to clone the whole thing. So you can also take a look onto that. So what all we are going to play with simple init baseline. This is like a new branch we are creating. I can add all those commits and I will just push those to the develop branch, and then I will create a new branch out of it and we will try to play with the simple task array. So git push origin develop. So I will be done with this change, and then I will create a new branch that will help us to write more code. I'm just creating some branches so that you can also take a look onto the code if you need. So these are the two branches I have created. One is the init, another is a task module. I already pushed it. So this should be available in the branches, task module and init baseline. Now let's try to play with this. So inside a domain task array, we have a service module and a controller. Now what we need to do is simple task model.ts, which is nothing but you can define an interface or a simple task array, which is a array of tasks, right? So instead of this, we will just create because this can also be a injectable service. So here we are creating a simple task array, name, description, string, ID, and I just have a array of tasks, right? And then inside task service, I can define, okay, the tasks, initialize them from this task list, and I can write some CRUD operation, get task, update task, delete task, all these operations, which is going to be performed on the task list. So create task, okay, you are actually going to add a new task inside it. Find all, give me all the task. Find one and update. I mean, you can actually literally do all the update operations which you run on the database. In the database you run those on the table. Here we are running only on the static array, fixed array, which is, you can also say, a memory array, right? Update task, delete task. So this dot task equal to give me all the task filtered by removing only the task which we are trying to remove, and return this dot task. And similarly, update task, delete task. In update task we are just going to update partially a particular task and set that task inside the. So first find that particular task. If task is there, if task is not there, throw new not found exception. If task is there, we will just play with that. So not found exception is actually NestJS internal exception which we can throw. And then if the task is there, what we can do, we can just update it. This dot task equal to this dot task dot map, because we need to generate a new task. If the ID matches with this, then update this particular task and rest return all the tasks. So map will return me the new array with the updates done for that ID. So this return this dot task, and we also need to get all the tasks after the operation. So like update, you can just return an ID. For delete, you can return null. For the create, you need to return that particular task which you have created. Now in the controller, you can define get, put, post, delete, patch operations and call the service method. Inside the service, you can call the respective service methods, and it's like a simple CRUD you are performing, right? Get, find all. It is returning promise of task array. Either you can do await, but there is nothing like await here. These are like static array method. We are not doing async await operations here. So create new to do, this dot task service dot create task service is injected inside a controller, and I can write a to do also, because to do's help me to pass the data from the body. So export class create task to DTO, and here you can just specify the parameters you wanted to pass, like name, description, and the type. Here we can also write a use Swagger decorators, which can, and you can also add a validations if you are using the validation pipe, that we will see in the next examples how to validate the payload. But I'm just passing only two attributes here, name and description. So when we are creating a task.length, and just id equal to task.length plus 1, and just pass the name and description. So this dot task.length plus 1, this will be the new id, and you actually able to create the new task. Id is number, which is optional. So this is how a simple CRUD operation looks like. I mean, you can define all the methods: get, post, put. So here what I'm doing is I need to pass the data and the path parameter. So what I'm doing is put colon id. So this id can be passed as a path parameter. Post, it's just like same URL, but HTTP post. Similarly, instead of put, you can just do a simple delete, simple get also. So HTTP get path param id. Here inside this, what we are doing is there are a lot of things you can pass. Request body, path parameter, query parameter, headers. All these things can be passed in the controller methods. We just need to define use a @body, @param, @query, @header. All these options. So if you see, query parameter means you are passing that in the query string. Path parameter means you are passing that in a path, like user's ID, headers. And how you access those? Using these DTOs, @body, @param, @query. If you are accessing, getting the data through path parameter, then you will use param ID number. Sometimes if there are multiple parameters, then you can also define DTO for that. Delete, so this is like delete task, and you are also passing the ID in the path parameter. Okay, and HTTP, whatever the HTTP status code individual method will return, you can define them. HTTP code dot OK, HTTP code dot content created, no content for delete, created for post, OK for put, delete is no content. So this is how you can define the API methods. And here you can see all these methods are exposed. API v1 user get, put, post, tasks, get, put, post, delete. All these methods are now being shown in the NestJS console. Okay, so this is how you can define a simple in-memory CRUD operation for the tasks.